Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A lot of questions after that huge week 1 game for the Cleveland Browns, so I'm just going to kind of jump into it, and we're going to start with a question from my guy Nash, who says, hey, Q, outside of the obvious mistakes, what is the part that scares you the most going forward with this team and why? I don't know if scares me is the proper term to describe it, because honestly, I didn't see anything that scared me on Sunday about this Browns team. The offense looked good. The defense, I felt like, played well enough in its first performance against the Chiefs. And then, other than some freak mistakes, right? Nick Chubb having a fumble forced off of somebody else's helmet. And Jamie Gillian just panicking and fumbling a football and just making the wrong decision there. Those aren't really things I'm worried about being chronic, right? If Jamie Gillian drops another punt, we'll just have a new punter. Nick Chubb isn't going to fumble that often. I've seen him play long enough to where I'm not worried about the fumbles being a huge issue with him. So the things that cost you that game on Sunday aren't necessarily things that I'm worried about coming back again, because they were just kind of freak accidents. And when you look at how the Browns played outside those two mistakes, even though they didn't play perfect football whatsoever, they definitely played well enough to beat the Chiefs. So I don't know if I'm necessarily worried about anything coming off of that game or scared about anything. There was nothing scary in that game or anything that would make me have to reevaluate my expectations for this team. They lost the game because they made a couple of mistakes that just were kind of freakish, and that's kind of the story of the game. I didn't see anything to be concerned about. The next question comes from C. Zachary Chad, who says, G. Bush said in his post game that Joe Woods isn't getting creative enough with his defensive play calling. Do you agree? Yes, there is a point where you could say Joe Woods wasn't being creative. I would counter that with, what did you expect Joe Woods to go out here and do? The one thing and the main thing I think a lot of people have forgotten is that this first team defense literally got 0 snaps together in the preseason. 0. Absolutely none. Because of injury, because of strategy, they did not have any snaps together week 1. So when you play the Kansas City Chiefs, when you don't have those reps, when communication has been an issue in the past, you're not going to do elaborate stuff because you would rather stay in your base formations and just do your best to stay in front of the Chiefs than try to get elaborate and have busted coverages where the Chiefs can most definitely take advantage. I am not anybody who's going to be critical of Joe Woods' decision not to be creative or super aggressive in this game. It's the first game with that starting unit, and you're playing the best offense in football and the best offense in the last 10 years. Yes, I do think there's going to be creative stuff that's going to happen with this defense. I think that's going to be much later down the line. Again, the offense didn't look creative last year in the first 6 weeks, and then once we got to the end of the season, looked very creative. That's because you need those reps together. It's going to take a little while for this defense to hit its peak. That's okay. Next question comes from Zach, who says, do you think the lack of reps in the preseason for the starters had a noticeable impact on this game? Yes and no. Offensively, they got enough snaps, and defensively, yes, I kind of just covered that in the last question. But, I think we learned one thing here, right? The tackling wasn't great. Some of the coverages you couldn't trust to get a little bit more complex, which is going to teach, hopefully, a lesson that, hey, five drives in the preseason for your starters might not be enough to get them prepared for the season. I know we all tried to get cute. Nobody played preseason last year, and the team was fine. But there is a level of usefulness that you can get out of the preseason for your starting unit, that you can also balance that with being smart when it comes to managing injury for the year. So, yeah, I do think the lack of preseason reps had a noticeable impact on the defensive side of the ball, just because I don't think Joe Woods could trust that his defense could do the things that he probably wanted them to do, just because they just haven't been playing together at all, even in practice. The next question comes from Ben Smith, who says, is there a reason DPJ didn't have much of an impact during the Chiefs? Will we not see much of him when Jarvis is playing well? Well, that's part of it, right? DPJ kind of plays a similar position to Jarvis. And I kind of mentioned this during the preseason when everybody was excited about DPJ. And I'm excited about DPJ, but also kind of understand he plays the same position as Jarvis Landry. So unless Jarvis is hurt, he's really not going to see that many targets. That's one reason why we didn't see DPJ. The other reason was his game plan, right? I think the Browns felt like the tight ends would be a more potent attack versus the Chiefs than it would be to go to your wide receivers. And if you were going to go to the wide receivers, you're going to take shots down the field. Anthony Schwartz is more equipped to do that. So game plan, 1, 2, yes, he does play Jarvis's position on the wide receiver room. So you're not going to necessarily see him that much when Jarvis is on the team, which is why they're going to have that question at the end of the year on who to keep. The next question comes from Alex, who says, after what we saw week 1, how do you feel we compare to the Texans? I would say favorably. We compare favorably to the Texans. Again, nothing I saw here told me that this team, the Cleveland Browns, are a bad team. Absolutely nothing. Bad luck in week 1? Yeah, we've been doing that for like 20 years. But a bad team? Absolutely not. There's nothing I saw here. Next question comes from Superfax, who says, after a promising outing from Kansas City, what does our defense need to work on, and where do you see them ranked by January? One, just getting reps together, getting more comfortable with each other, having that communication be there. That's the biggest thing, right? Getting that trust there. The second thing is taking advantage of the versatility, right? We saw a little bit of this in the game, but we didn't get to see them take it fully advantage because, again, it's the Chiefs and it's their first game playing together as a first unit. So you're not really going to see that much creativity out of them. So we'll see that down the line. I want to see the defense get more versatile, more athletic. You're going to get some of the things that happen against the Chiefs when you play them, like that long ball versus Tyreek Hill, some of those QB scrambles, just because they have so many weapons. But you want to see them kind of do a better job in those third and shorts that they were able to force the Kansas City Chiefs in all game, right? You want to see them get off the field a little bit more often in those situations. I think that's the one thing the defense should really be able to improve on the next time around. The next question comes from Eddie Everhart, who says, do you think the Browns played up to the competition of the Chiefs, or is this their level now? And do you think they let their guard down against some subpar teams and have trap games? This was not a case last week of the Cleveland Browns playing up the competition. They played and they made mistakes. They made more mistakes actually than Kansas City Chiefs did. Everybody talks about that when you play Kansas City in Kansas City, for most teams, and it's true, that you need to be perfect. The fact of the matter is that Kansas City was perfect and the Browns were far from perfect. They made multiple huge mistakes, had missed opportunity after missed opportunity, and the Chiefs only beat them by 4. The Browns did not play perfectly. They almost won that game, and they could have not played perfectly and won that game. The Kansas City Chiefs played perfectly, and they almost lost it. So I don't think this is a example of the Browns playing up the competition. I think this is just who they are right now. They're just a really good team, and I don't expect them to play down to competition either, because nothing that Kevin Stefanski has done in his first year as head coach would suggest that that's going to be something that I have to watch out for. But we'll see. Next question comes from Sean, who says, where was Higgins and DPJ all game? Seemed like Schwartz and Landry were the only wide receivers. Again, I think it was game plan. The reason why you weren't seeing a lot of Donovan Peoples-Jones. There are going to be teams where you are going to see a lot of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Maybe when Odell's back and Donovan Peoples-Jones is against a team's third or fourth corner, you're going to see a lot more of him right there. But I think the coaching staff thought that the tight end matchups would be the ones where the Chiefs would be most vulnerable. And quite honestly, if you look at how the game folded out and how well Baker was playing, yeah, I think they were right in that game plan, right? Because David Njoku had a massive game, and he was able to take advantage of some seams that were wide open that the Kansas City Chiefs left. So, yeah, I think that's why you didn't see any. Look, it's one game, and the sample size is not big enough from one game, offensively or defensively, to make any large-scale assumptions about the offense or the defense. No, they didn't throw the ball to Donovan Peoples-Jones a lot. Is that going to happen all year? Probably not. I think they'll find a way to get him the ball in certain game plans. No, they didn't, get off the field or hold a team under 30. Is that going to be the case for every team? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like, if they played the Kansas City Chiefs as well as they did, they're probably going to play some other teams pretty well. I know it's week one. I know we've been waiting 8 months for a game to happen. And when a game does happen, our reactions are going to be over the top, especially for week one, because we have nothing else to react to or nothing else to base this on. But again, nothing that these things don't scale out like, oh, what you saw in week one is just going to be what it is for the rest of the season. Things are going to change. Things are going to get better. Some things are going to get worse. But, you just have to anticipate those things. But that's it for this week's Q&A. Again, guys, thank you guys for asking all of these questions. Please have a great day. Have a good night.